The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for 9,000 years. Across the spiral arms of 1,000 suns, its sigil, 3 rings of fire, marked every habitable world. To the Empire, peace meant obedience, and obedience meant extinction of difference. Humanity had refused both. In the Grand Hall of the Celestial Throne, the Emperor spoke before his assembly of admirals and governors. His voice echoed like thunder across the dome of light. They refused assimilation. They refused tribute. They refused the genetic uplift. They called us conquerors. He turned toward the map of stars, where one dim speck blinked in the corner of the galaxy. Erase them. No one questioned the order. Humanity had been isolated for 3 centuries, hidden behind debris fields and silent probes. The Empire had sent envoys once, then spies, then assassins. None had returned. Their silence had been taken as surrender, and so the Imperial Armada moved. Thousands of dreadnoughts tore through the void, leaving trails of golden plasma across the dark. They called it Operation Purity. To them, it was extermination wrapped in ceremony, but Earth said nothing. No transmissions, no fleets rising to meet them, only a blue sphere spinning beneath clouds, as quiet as a ghost. The Empire's commanders mistook it for weakness. They should have remembered what silence means to predators. Beneath the crust, hidden beneath layers of steel and forgotten tunnels, humanity watched. Inside the command vaults carved under the Himalayas, the last generation of the Defense Council gathered. The air was thin, the lights dim, and one woman stood at the center, hands behind her back, General Ava Solarin. Her face was unreadable, calm as stone. The screens reflected in her eyes showed the incoming fleets, each symbol tagged with hostile intent. Her subcommanders shifted nervously, waiting for orders, but Ava said nothing. She simply studied the map of the solar system, its quiet orbits and sleeping sentinels. When the first Empire broadcast arrived, demanding surrender, no reply came. When the countdown began, no response came. When the bombardment started, humanity did not scream. Oceans boiled. The upper atmosphere turned to glass. The moon's surface shuddered under the hammering of energy weapons. Empire soldiers cheered, believing victory assured. They did not know they had just knocked on a grave that was never theirs to open. The first anomaly appeared 12 minutes after bombardment. Empire sensors detected a signal. No source, no frequency, just a pulse, then another. Then a cascade of lights from dead satellites. Every relic of old humanity came online at once. In orbit, forgotten defense stations blinked awake, their cores glowing with blue light. The Empire tried to jam them. They could not. Deep inside Earth, an ancient machine stirred, its designation, Argus. Last activated 200 years ago, sealed under 1 trillion encryption keys. Now, one phrase released it. Spoken by a single human voice. Authorization Solarin 01. Wake up. The lights in the vault flickered, then turned white. Argus spoke, not with sound, but through every system on the planet. Humanity detected threat level, extinction. Initiating recollection protocol. N01 in the vault moved. Only Ava's lips curved slightly, the faintest smile, quiet as dawn. For 30 years, she had waited for this exact day. Above Earth, Empire ships began to report impossible readings. They saw movement on the dark side of the moon, shadows forming into lines, formations impossible to track. The admiral in charge demanded identification. He received none. Then one of the shadows opened fire. An O radiation signature, no engine trail, just light, compressed into silence. The first dreadnought split apart. Without explosion, its atoms disassembled like sand. Then another, and another. N01 understood what was happening. The Empire's entire command net began to fracture under data overload. In the void, humanity's forgotten fleet rose. They were not new ships. They were relics of the old wars, autonomous hulls wrapped in adaptive nanomesh, silent, invisible to sensors. Each bore a single mark burned into its plating, the human DNA helix intertwined with a serpent. The symbol of the Terran Defense Accord. Argus linked them instantly, a network spanning light seconds, responding faster than thought. Within moments, every orbital layer became a chessboard under human control. The Empire fired everything they had. It didn't matter. Their weapons vanished mid-flight, rewritten into clouds of harmless ions. Ava watched from a vault as enemy ship icons winked out one by one. Her officers looked to her for instruction, confusion, and or blending on their faces, she only said, "Let them finish their mistake." In orbit, the Empire tried to retreat, but the void itself betrayed them. Gravity wells appeared where none existed. Ships fell into phantom orbits, colliding with their own escorts. Argus was rewriting space in localized folds, technology the Empire had outlawed ages ago because only humans had ever used it. The Emperor's flagship transmitted a command to regroup. Ava intercepted it. With a wave of her hand, she released it back, slightly altered. The message now read, "Hold position. Await human contact." They obeyed their own doom. Hours passed. The bombardment ceased. Smoke curled from the atmosphere, but the planet still turned beneath it. Wounded yet unbroken, humanity had taken its first breath of war in centuries, and the galaxy trembled. Argus' voice filled the command vault. Enemy fleet neutralization probability, 92%. Awaiting final directive, Ava looked at the holographic projection of Earth, at the blue ocean scarred with fire, and answered softly, "Begin recollection." The phrase had no meaning to her officers, but Argus understood. It accessed the archives buried in the mantle, the relic programs, ancient war code written before the interstellar bans, technology built when humanity still believed survival justified everything. The vault trembled. Across the solar system, forgotten stations powered up. From the asteroid belt emerged metallic structures, self-replicating platforms, factories that had slept for generations. They began printing ships, drones, and machines that moved with a terrible intelligence. The Empire's remaining forces tried to flee. They couldn't. Their navigation systems now displayed false coordinates, looping them endlessly through the same region of space. Humanity didn't chase. They waited, like hunters in the dark. Ava walked to the center console, her boots echoing in the stillness. Her officers watched her, afraid to speak. She said, "They declared war. We declare memory." Argus obeyed. Every Empire ship caught in orbit began transmitting ancient human signals, the same ones the Empire used centuries ago when they enslaved lesser species. Only now, the messages were inverted, written in the Empire's own encryption. Each line of code was a mirror. Each mirror became a trap. Within minutes, the Empire's own network turned against them. Their dreadnoughts opened fire on allies, sensors misreporting everything as human targets. The void filled with silent collisions, ships breaking apart without sound, their reactors imploding like dying stars. Ava didn't celebrate. She simply watched the data flow, her expression unreadable. To her, this was not victory. It was accounting. Argus reported 98% success. The last remaining flagship attempted to transmit a distress call to the Emperor. The signal never left the solar system. Human satellites caught it, translated it, and returned only one line of text: "We warned you once." By the time the sun rose again over the scarred surface, Earth had reclaimed its silence. The air above burned crimson, the clouds glowing like blood and gold. But the planet still turned, still lived. The Empire had expected a single sharp volley of human resistance before the inevitable collapse, but the battle unfolding over Earth looked nothing like their simulations. Human defenses were crude but terrifyingly effective. Their rail cannons fired with suicidal determination, their missiles moved unpredictably, and their drones swarmed with reckless abandon. It was chaotic, reckless, inefficient, and brutally dangerous. The Imperial fleet responded with overwhelming force. Thousands of beams of plasma energy scorched through orbit, carving fiery lines across the darkness. Human satellites vaporized instantly. Orbital stations were turned to dust. The Empire advanced through the chaos like a tidal wave of metal and fire, sweeping away everything in its path. But humanity fought back as if possessed. A missile barrage from Earth's surface, launched from dozens of hidden silos, streaked upward at impossible angles. They danced through space using improvised algorithms written only hours earlier, guided by frantic coders who barely understood the alien jamming systems they were hacking around. Several missiles detonated prematurely under Imperial counterfire, but one struck an Imperial destroyer square in its central hull. The explosion was small by galactic standards, but it was enough. The destroyer lurched sideways, its shields malfunctioned, and the ship split apart in a blossom of burning debris. Even the Imperial officers watching from afar grew momentarily quiet. On Earth, Cheers erupted in bunkers and command rooms across the planet. It was the first time a human weapon had ever destroyed an interstellar warship, and it would not be the last, but victory was fleeting. The Empire's retaliation was swift and merciless. A curtain of plasma fire rained downward, turning the sky into a boiling sheet of red and purple. The atmosphere hummed with energy as human air defenses strained to intercept what they could. Cities trembled. Military bases vanished in vaporized craters. Civilians watched in horror as the sky burned. The Imperial fleet advanced, closing in on low orbit. Admiral Schrakelvon smirked with cold confidence, primitive defiance, he muttered. Crush them. But even as Earth's defenses collapsed, humanity's will hardened. In an underground bunker beneath the Andes, the final sequences of Project Bastion were activated. Massive superconductors hummed to life, feeding power into an unstable, experimental planetary shield array. Scientists shouted warnings that the project had never been fully tested, that the energy required might overload global grids, that triggering it could backfire catastrophically. But Earth had no alternatives left. The world darkened for a moment as power grids flickered, then the Bastion array erupted in a shimmering curtain of blue light. A translucent dome expanded from the upper atmosphere, covering the planet like a second sky. The first wave of plasma fire from the Imperial fleet struck the shield. The entire Earth shook. The energy dome rippled, shrieked, and dimmed, but it held. A second wave struck. The shield flared. Whole regions of the dome blinked as circuits overloaded. Yet again, it held. A third wave. The shield flickered dangerously. Desperate engineers rerouted power from civilian grids, plunging cities into darkness to keep the barrier alive. Admiral Schrakelvon stared at the glowing shield with rising disbelief. A Class 3 world should not be capable of generating a planetary barrier, he hissed. How are they doing this? His officers had no answer. The Empire had assumed humanity's technological progress was linear, predictable, understandable. They had not accounted for desperation. Yes, the shield strained to remain intact. Humanity's orbital forces continued to lash out. Railguns fired until their coils melted. Drones rammed into enemy ships when out of ammunition. Even dying satellites used their last power reserves to launch kinetic strikes at passing Imperial hulls. Humanity was losing, yes, but humanity was refusing to die quietly. In the war rooms of Earth, analysts watched live feeds of destruction flickering across the globe. Entire fleets gone. Dozens of cities burning. The Bastion shield failing. Earth needed something more, something beyond defense, something that could change the war. That something arrived in the form of a single captured Imperial transmission, an encrypted navigational ping from a damaged dreadnought, intercepted by one of humanity's stealth drones just before it was obliterated. Project Seraphim, the quantum-range AI, decrypted the signal in minutes. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a map. It was a set of jump coordinates leading deep into Imperial territory. Humanity had no faster-than-light travel. They had no jump drives. They had no theoretical framework for crossing interstellar space faster than light. But the captured dreadnought did. In a hidden hangar beneath the Nevada desert, humanity made a decision that defied all logic. They would hijack the dreadnought. A small team of elite operators, engineers, and scientists, the Earth Special Contingent, was launched into orbit aboard a stealth transport coated in experimental refractive plating. It slipped past Imperial scanners using jamming codes generated by Project Seraphim. The dreadnought they targeted was heavily damaged, drifting with flickering lights. Its escorts had already moved on to join the planetary assault. Its shields were offline. The human strike team latched onto the hull and cut their way inside. The interior was a labyrinth of alien metal, glowing conduits, and suffocating haze. The ship seemed to breathe. Every surface pulsed with rippling patterns of unknown function. The humans carved a path through corpse-strewn corridors, victims of earlier battles and decompression injuries. Automated defense drones tried to repel them, but the team moved like shadows. They reached the central navigation core, pried open the alien panels, and connected a human interface module. Project Seraphim infiltrated the dreadnought systems, learning at a terrifying pace, rewriting protocols, forcing compatibility between incompatible technologies, And then, impossibly, the dreadnought accepted human command. For the first time in history, a human vessel controlled a faster-than-light drive. The strike team sent a single message back to Earth: jump capability confirmed. Earth's generals understood instantly. The dreadnought could be used to strike back. Not defensively. Not symbolically. A counter-invasion. The idea was insane. The risks catastrophic. But the dreadnought could not remain in orbit for long. Imperial ships were converging on its location. Humanity had seconds to choose. Earth's leaders made the decision not based on hope, but on instinct, fury, and the ancient human truth that had carried their species through every near-extinction event in history. If you want to kill a human, you had better make sure they don't get back up. The dreadnought jumped. The jump tore space apart, swallowing the ship in a white-hot vortex. Human operators screamed as the laws of physics distorted around them. Their bodies felt stretched across infinity. Time felt liquid. Space felt unforgiving. Then, violently, the dreadnought reassembled itself in the heart of Imperial territory. Sirens blared across dozens of Imperial worlds. Civilian ships scattered. Government officials panicked. No enemy had ever penetrated the Empire's inner borders, and certainly not a primitive species that wasn't supposed to have jump capability. The dreadnought plunged toward the nearest Imperial command hub like an avenging spectre. Inside the ship, humanity unleashed everything they had. Sabotage teams planted charges. Hackers overloaded planetary grids. Engineers diverted alien power flows into unstable loops. The dreadnought crashed into a military fabrication center, detonating in a blinding explosion that rippled across the system. Hundreds of Imperial vessels were destroyed. Shipyards collapsed. Planetary defense grids disintegrated. Humanity had struck the Empire's heart. Admiral Schrakelvon watched the reports in disbelief. How did they reach our systems? He demanded. They should not have the means. But humans were not acting within the Empire's paradigm. They were acting like humans, unpredictable, reckless, creative, terrifying. The Empire was no longer fighting a conquest mission. They were fighting a species that had become a cornered beast, and cornered beasts were the deadliest. The Empire attempted to regroup, but humanity's assault triggered a cascade of chaos. Conquered alien species scattered across the Empire saw a chance for freedom. Uprisings erupted. Imperial logistics collapsed. Factions turned on each other. The Empire's iron grip loosened, and Earth, seeing the chaos, struck again, not with fleets. Not with armies, with ideas. But they were not done. Humanity launched dozens of captured comlinks into space, hijacking Imperial channels and coordinating with alien rebels. Networks of resistance flourished. Sabotage spread across Imperial infrastructure like wildfire. Human strategists, who had grown up studying asymmetric warfare, taught species across space how to fight from the shadows. In the deepest reaches of Imperial territory, the last command fleet gathered, a fleet far larger than the one sent to Earth. It was assembled to crush the spreading rebellion and annihilate humanity once and for all. But something had changed. Humanity was no longer alone. A coalition of alien ships, hastily armed and piloted by those who had suffered under Imperial rule for centuries, converged to assist Earth. Their fleets were smaller, weaker, and less coordinated, but humanity gave them tactics, strategy, courage, and leadership. The final confrontation erupted around the Imperial throne world, a planet-sized fortress surrounded by battle stations and shield networks that had never fallen in 9,000 years. The Empire's last fleet waited there, bristling with weaponry, ready to annihilate anything approaching. The United Human-Alien Alliance did not hesitate. Human commanders led the charge, coordinating dozens of species into a single warfront. Drones swarmed through enemy formations. Rebel bombers sacrificed themselves to break apart shield clusters. Human strikes targeted command vessels with ruthless precision. Kinetic spears launched at relativistic speeds tore through Imperial armor. The Empire's fleet was vast, but humans had learned something the Empire had forgotten long ago. Unity beats size, adaptability beats tradition, desperation beats arrogance. The battle was brutal. Ships shattered. Planets trembled. Space-time itself warped under the force of the weapons deployed. Entire armadas vanished in fire. T the center of the storm, humanity unleashed its last gambit. Project Helios, Earth's solar lens weapon, had been dangerously modified during the chaos of war. Now it was mounted onto a coalition flagship, powered by alien reactors. Guided by human AI, Helios fired a concentrated spear of star-forged energy, slicing directly through the throne world's primary shield. A second pulse shattered the planetary defense ring. A third bored through the throne's citadel itself. The imperial government fell in a plume of incandescent fire. The fleet, witnessing the destruction of their core command, faltered. Rebel forces surged. Human operators hacked Imperial comms and overloaded their navigation systems, sending entire squadrons spiraling out of formation. The Empire collapsed. The survivors surrendered. Admiral Schrakelvon, captured aboard his burning flagship, stared at the humans with hollow eyes. He could not comprehend how a primitive world had achieved what countless civilizations could not. A human officer spoke only one sentence to him: "You should not have come to our world." When the war finally ended, Earth did not declare dominion. They did not conquer worlds or claim territory. They helped rebuild. They protected the newly liberated species. They ensured that the tyranny of the Empire would never rise again. Earth became something the galaxy had never seen: a guardian, not a ruler. A defender of those who could not defend themselves. A reminder that strength was not found in ancient empires, but in the hearts of species that refused to surrender even when the universe demanded it. Humanity returned home changed, scarred, but unbroken. Their cities would rebuild. Their skies would clear. Their world would heal, and across the galaxy, whispers circulated through every star system, every liberated world, every newly awakened mind. The Empire had wanted war, but nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared them for what Earth sent.